Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting of the Building Committee to order. We are going to start with traffic. One of our committee members has to get to the school concert. We tried really hard to find a date in June that there were no conflicts with school activities, and no such date exists. So we're doing the best we can to keep things moving along. At a previous meeting, we went through a pros and cons analysis of a lot of suggestions that had come in from the community. My understanding is those suggestions were also shared with the city's traffic engineer and the TPAC.
TPAC and Traffic Operations.
Traffic Operations Committee of the city. In the interim, we've had a couple of other suggestions come in at various meetings that we've asked our traffic engineer to evaluate. This is not a public hearing or a Q&A session. The building committee members obviously are welcome to ask questions. I am going to try and ask some of the questions that have been asked at recent public meetings. Both of them, I think, come from these suggestions. One of them we're calling the Don Brueggemann Plan. And one is a suggestion from board member Barb Higgins. So I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca now. I know you haven't had a lot of time with them, but I know you've looked at them as well as some other people have as well.
Yep. Yeah, so there are two different alternatives that came in, and so yeah, let me just might do that. There we go. If I need to, I can zoom in on certain areas, but this is the one that is Don's plan. So this one proposes having both buses and cars enter in from South Street, and they would essentially both wrap around the parking lot here and then both come back out onto Conant Street. And essentially this was proposed in an effort to eliminate buses having to go through the neighborhood and be consistent with what is kind of happening on the site today, with the buses and cars coming in, dividing off into two lanes, and then coming back out together again. And then this also does, as an additional benefit, it eliminates the stacking of the buses through the staff parking lot, so that would remain clear. So we did take a look at this option to see kind of whether this could fit on the site. And some various things that we see here is that if you were to implement this option, you would need to, similarly like you have today, have the buses and cars come in through a single lane. There's not enough space there to have it be immediately one lane for each of the traffic flows as they turn in. So they would come in one lane and then separate out. You would need to provide a divider between them, which ideally would have a 6-foot wide sidewalk with a 6-inch curb on either side. So that's why we say up there a 7-foot sidewalk. And then you would need a 12-foot loading lane for the buses and a 12-foot bypass lane for if a bus were to break down, the other buses would be able to get out around them. If there were to be an incident and fire trucks needed to get through, they would be able to do that. So essentially, you would need to widen that drive aisle that wraps around the parking lot that we have previously been calling the parent loop by an additional 31 feet to be able to get the buses and parents to stack side by side. That does obviously create some conflict points, not dissimilar from what you have today, where the buses and the parent traffic would need to merge together back at the end in this area. It also would still require all of the kids who are headed to get to parent traffic to cross over that bus traffic to get to their waiting vehicles. In addition to that, you can see that there is this parking area that is located right here. And we would need to relocate that parking in order to be able to accommodate the bus lane essentially coming through there. Based on what you can see here with the dashed blue lines, that is the extent of where the parent queuing would occur. So we would need to have the opening for the buses be back in this area here, where it would open up and then be additional 31 feet wider in this area. So it would take up pretty much all of that space right up to the athletic field. So we may potentially lose that southerly athletic field to be able to get all that to fit in that area as well. So those are kind of the main items here. And then the additional thing is, as you come through this area here, where we also need to widen out to an additional 31 feet, you would either be widening in towards the school and lose that rain garden and some drainage space in here, some open space in front of the school, or you would be talking about losing 38 parking spaces along this row here for the staff parking lot. In order to accommodate.
Parking spaces to the Abbott Downing parking spaces?
In addition to the 30 that are located along here for the Abbott Downing, yep. Which potentially you could relocate to the opposite side. Those 30 parking spaces could potentially be located to the opposite side there.
Yes, Ms. Boucher.
The bus is the yellow, correct?
The bus is the yellow.
Can they even make a
correct.
right-hand turn? Or do they then have to swing into the right-hand turn to queue in?
To queue in.
It looks like a
through
very
here.
tight turn.
Yeah,
there,
so this
too.
would definitely need to be widened out a little bit. This is just sort of a schematic to show you how far back the queuing would extend. Yes, so this would need to be widened out in this area here. Yep.
Ms. Hignell?
So, and then when they're coming out back onto Conant Drive, if a parent vehicle wants to make a left turn and a bus is making, or a parent vehicle wants to make a right turn on Conant and a bus is making a left turn on Conant, I imagine that's a problem.
Yeah, whoops, sorry, I
Would
advanced it.
Would we
without
have to
meaning
require left turn only for everyone?
So at this point right here, everyone would be essentially making a left-hand turn. This
Yeah.
is a service drive back here.
Yeah.
And there's a gate proposed at this location. So all buses and parent traffic would make the left-hand turn and come down to Conant Drive. And from here, they could go either direction.
But they're gonna be side by side, and so if a
Or
bus-
They wouldn't. So
Oh,
they would
into
merge
one lane.
before.
Okay, I thought they were still, we
Yeah.
were keeping everything always side by side.
Yeah,
So-
no, they would merge
so then
in
at
this
that red
this
circle,
area.
they have to merge into
They
a
would
single
need to
lane.
merge. Yeah.
Ms.
Would-
Fox? Oh, sorry.
This may not actually be a question for you, but is that the rain garden that would likely be impacted by that, is that being used for stormwater treatment for the site? Okay, so that space would have to be replaced. Okay.
Did you have another question?
Yes, would that merging cause additional backup, or is that merging?
It could potentially cause some backup there, yes. Yep. So what happens on the site today with the buses and parents, they need to merge right near this intersection here. And so the parents do have to wait while kind of all those buses flow out together in one big group, and then the cars start flowing again. And we would expect similar at this location here as well. And then we did look at one alternative to having both parent and bus traffic loop through the previous parent loop to try and alleviate some of those, that widening that would occur and the loss of parking. In this scenario, we had buses coming up and looping through this area only, and then parent cars stacking back along the driveway, similar to how they do today. The main issues with that is that the parent traffic, there's not adequate stacking distance in this area for all of that parent traffic within a single lane. So it would either back up onto South Street, or you would have to double stack parents, and then you'd have a similar issue to what you do today, where parents are blocked in if there's a parent at the front of the line whose kid hasn't arrived yet, and you get people zigzagging around cars that are still stopped, which can be a pretty dangerous situation to have. So really, this option as well doesn't work, but we did look at that as kind of an alternative. And then still that would require all of the kids to cross the bus traffic here. The widening out in this area to be able to get buses over into their own lane as soon as possible also impact a second field in this area as well. So
I'm sorry, Nicole. Can you actually explain your question? I can talk loud too. Can you explain your question? Because when you first mentioned rain garden, I'm like, okay, what's the big deal? But then when you asked that question, I'm like, okay, it sounds like a big deal. So
So there is a very large, it's called impervious area on the site, which is the building itself and then any parking lot and any driveway space, anything that's paved. And so you have to treat all of that water before it gets discharged. Currently, all of the runoff that comes from the existing site, I believe, goes directly untreated into Bow Brook with all of that salt and other pollutants in it. And so we're in a different era. And in order for permitting to take place, we have to treat all the stormwater that's coming off of the site on site before it goes off. And so a rain garden is just an area with plants and that allows the water to infiltrate into the ground. We have, for this purpose, we have very nice sandy soil in the south end, so the water will infiltrate nicely that way. Other kinds of stormwater treatment, oftentimes for sites with a lot of impervious area, end up being like expensive underground, sort of not quite mechanical as like they're like big storage tanks almost underground that help treat the water before it's slowly discharged. So it could, if you can't find a different place for a rain garden, it could just add more project expense and for that stormwater.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
any other questions on this alternative before we move on to the second alternative? Oops, too far. All right, so the second alternative that we received had some variations on it, and we'll kind of walk through all the different variations because there were a few different options that were proposed. So this one again has all traffic for buses and parents coming in through South Street, but proposes having buses exit out onto Conant Drive through one of two options. So one option would be for the buses to loop around in what was previously proposed as the parent loop, or to have them continue in a straight line right out through Conant Drive utilizing the existing driveway. In those scenarios, so in the first kind of group that we looked at, it was recommended that parents also come in through the access drive out onto South Street. They would come up and loop back around and then come back out again out onto South Street. That would effectively require 3 travel lanes here for having entering and exiting traffic. And then we would also need some type of barrier between the buses and the parent traffic because the parents are coming back out in between the buses and the parents entering. The other component involved with this is that there is a parking lot here for the Abbott Downing School, and they also need to be able to get egress out onto South Street. So they do have a little two-way section there where they come out. So that would be kind of a 4th lane that needs to be accommodated there. And there really just is not enough space in this area to be able to accommodate all of those travel lanes in that area. Nicole, did you have a question?
I see there is a bullet that answers my question. I was like, where are the walking students? But I see they are between the buses and the moving parent vehicles. So even students who are walking to school are in that space in between buses and parents?
Yes. So there are a lot of places where you could put sidewalks here. So likely there could be a sidewalk out along the edge here that would come up and in. But you would also need to get kids to be able to walk down to the buses, which would stack back and around to about here. So you would need to be able to accommodate some walking in between the parents and the bus traffic in this area as well. This option, again, it does cut right through that parking for the Abbott Downing School, so you would need to replace that. In this case, you would really lose it in this area because the widening that would occur to accommodate all these lanes, plus the walking in between, would eliminate the ability to add that parking really on either side there. It does obviously impact the two athletic fields to have traffic looping up through this area. So you would lose two of the athletic fields. And the other thing it does is create a very congested, confusing intersection here on South Street where you have multiple flows of traffic entering and exiting, turning movements all occurring in one area. And just kind of compounding that volume of traffic that's entering and exiting for parents at the same time, where there's a lot of left turns crossing against each other. One of the other variations on this was that instead of having the parents loop back around and come out here, the parents could instead turn and come down through and use this bus loop area here. Essentially what this becomes is the option that we just talked about, only with the traffic flipped. So now you've got the parents on the inside and the buses on the outside. There's really not any benefit in this scenario to looping the car traffic up through the athletic fields and losing those athletic fields. So essentially that becomes this option here, where again, you're dealing with that issue of having to widen this area out by 31 feet, which begins to take your parking. In this area, you have the need for all of the kids who are being bused now, which is a significantly higher volume of kids, needing to cross all of that parent traffic. And as we know, parents are much more unpredictable in the way that they drive. So that would be a much more dangerous situation than having the opposite occurring. And then it still requires the merging of traffic down at this location here for that parent and bus traffic to merge before it comes out onto Conant Drive. And then another variation of this was to have the parent traffic come down along the side of the bus loop and then take that right turn and come out onto Conant Drive. This is also very similar to a prior alternative that we looked at that had parent traffic coming up and looping around the athletic fields and out. It would have similar issues here with creating this conflict point where the buses have to cross over parent traffic. That bus queue will extend all the way back to here, so they will be crossing between stopped buses at that point where they're trying to load. It also requires all of the kids to cross over all of that parent traffic. And in this scenario, it really creates a very short sort of loading area for the parent traffic as well. And the other thing I was going to mention here is that in order to kind of avoid the parents and students having to cross between the parent traffic and the parents crossing the buses that are loading, you could only stack about 5 buses in this area here. So if you were to try and avoid those kids having to cross over the parent traffic, you could only load 5 buses at a time, and there's a total of 19 buses. So, and another variation on this same alternative was instead of having the buses loop all the way around through the loop at the front of the school, is what if the buses came down on the south side of the parking lot and came out onto Conant Drive like they do today, still having the parent traffic loop back around out to South Street. Again, it doesn't really change a whole lot compared to what we already mentioned. It creates this very congested intersection here. The need to widen all of this out where there really just isn't room in this section right here to be able to do that widening. There isn't adequate right-of-way available to be able to do that. In this area here, you would lose those parking spaces, and you would lose 2 athletic fields in order to be able to accommodate this. The other thing is that if you were to have buses stacking in this zone only, there is not enough space in that area to accommodate all 19 buses stacked. So now you would have parent traffic and bus traffic queuing back out onto the road. The other kind of variation on this was having the buses stack in the same area coming out onto Conant Drive, having the parents loop up around and also come out side by side to them. This does require now for the kids to all cross the parent traffic to get to the buses. Again, that queue of buses would be extending out back onto the roadway. And then you have the need here for the buses to merge in with parent traffic in this area here again. Otherwise, these are all kind of essentially the same. And this looks very similar to the prior option of looping the buses around, or the parents around. And the last option that was looked at was having the buses, again, utilize the existing driveway layout area essentially, and then having the parent traffic loop up and around and come out through the prior parent drop-off loop. This essentially is the same as kind of the previous option. In this option, it doesn't really make sense to have the parents loop up and around. It would make sense to have them come down and along here and use the loop so that you're not losing these athletic fields for it. But again, you would still have to widen out that 31 feet to provide that separation between the buses and the parent traffic. So in that scenario, you would lose these parking spaces here that you would need to relocate. You would potentially impact this lower athletic field. You would not have to lose the parking in this area because you would be able to open this up for 1 lane for the parent loop. But all of those students walking down to the buses would need to cross over the parent traffic in that scenario. Whoops. So those are essentially the options that we have gone through that we received since the last time.
Remember the date of that meeting? Somebody?
I did write it down and I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think it was our
April
9th.
April 9th.
Yep.
Okay.
If folks want to look online, there is a plan of a bunch of different, we looked at varieties that had buses going in Noyes and out Conant, buses going in Conant and coming out Noyes. There were suggestions about going around the fields, but there are wetlands. So there is a whole other presentation that goes through a whole bunch of other options too. Ms. Fox, you had your hand up?
I did. I know that there have been a number of meetings with particularly the Traffic Operations Committee, which, for anyone who's unfamiliar with them, that committee is composed of primarily emergency services as well as city staff. Did they see any of the options with 3 lanes on South Street?
They did not see these options that we just talked through today. They saw all of the prior options that we did discuss.
So I would be strongly inclined to guess that they would have some pretty strong objections to 2 lanes in with 1 lane out in between them. And I was trying to think of an alternative way that could be arranged while you were talking, and I don't see one. So I don't know that those 3 lanes configurations, I would be shocked if emergency services would be okay with that, or city staff who have to respond to crashes. I think that would be a very unusual situation that would create confusion for drivers.
So Ms. Fox, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot because we've spent a lot of time talking about this, and you're here as a parent, but you're also a roadway engineer,
yeah.
in your real job. And I've been sending you the various options that people have sent me. I know you've looked at this a lot as well, and I just want to get your thoughts.
Okay. So in general, I would say that as a parent, and as I was just telling Mr. Richard before this meeting, I have been a Brunlet parent for the last 7 years. I'm about to graduate from that role next week or in 2 weeks. And I will say that the current configuration with the parent and bus crossover and just the way parents queue up it's horrible. As a parent, it's incredibly stressful. I will do almost anything to avoid that, which my kids will tell you because they will complain a lot about how I will not drive them or pick them up from school and make them take the bus. However, so I do think finding alternatives to that, even with the barriers that are in place now, it's really a very stressful and uncomfortable situation where you constantly have kids running in front of your car and then running in front of the buses and running back the other way. Middle schoolers are not known for excellent judgment. And so, I've looked at all these options. I look at them both as a parent and as an engineer. I would love for there to be something that was not concerning for the neighborhood surrounding, but I genuinely see that separating that traffic is the only really good way to do it. And I don't see any way to separate that traffic without some of the traffic in the Noyes Street neighborhood. And for me, if I lived in that neighborhood, because I live in a neighborhood with similarly narrow streets, I would definitely choose the buses over the parents every single day. I would not want the parents anywhere near me or my home. So that's kind of where I come down. I feel like while there's pluses and minuses to everything, in the net, the safest option is kind of what's been proposed.
So one of the questions that we received on Monday, and to go back in time, when the state evaluated Concord's application for a new school, and even though they're not funding it, I think their feedback is worthwhile. We got the maximum points for safety that moved us up to the top of the list, and the current configuration was a big factor for the state, although there are other things with that school that need improvement, safety-wise. The question, though, is, the state certainly encourages separation of parent and bus traffic, but talks about that it can be done with barriers as opposed to different routes. Can you talk to me about what the barrier options would be and what the pros and cons, or talk to us?
Yeah, so I think these are kind of what the barrier options look like. I think the one that Don recommended is really what the barrier option would look like. So that's where we would have that, the 7-foot sidewalk or 6-foot sidewalk effectively with 6-inch curbs on either side, and having 12-foot lane for a bypass and then 12-foot parking lane for buses on one side. On the opposite side of that barrier, you would have an 8-foot lane for queuing for your parent traffic. And then typically the fire department requires 15 to 16 feet for their bypass. Beyond that, in the event that cars are all parked along there and a car becomes disabled, they need to be able to get around. So you're talking about 15 to 16 feet that you would want to have for that lane. So that's kind of what that would look like. You likely would want to have a fence or something to guide students to where you want them to cross the roadway so that you don't get them crossing all over the place. Similar to right now, there is a wooden fence along there, but you don't want that to impede your pedestrian space as well. So whatever you do propose out there, anticipate having it a little bit wider so that it's not impeding your pedestrian space as well.
So I received a call from Chris Netto, who is the civil engineer for this project from Novus Engineering, today, and he said I could share his thoughts as well. He had to be at something else today. And the first thing he said to me is that we all have licenses that require us to do the best thing and not to recommend options that we think are unsafe or unwise, so that you as a board and a group should be careful about what you ask for and what you accept. So I thought that was good. But he also pointed out that, you, him, the city's traffic operations are all licensed professionals, and you all recommend the current configuration. The only person of that group that actually has a direct investment in the outcome is Chris. Actually, I was surprised to learn he is in a butter. He lives on South Street looking directly at Noyes, where the buses are going to come out. And he said, despite that, he still thinks this is the current option is the safest. Is there, and safe is always, what safer to whom and what. Is there something in good conscience that we're not thinking of, or that you could say, well, this isn't quite as good as the option on the table, but I still think it would be within my professional responsibilities to say you can go along with that or design it?
Yeah, so you're asking of the options that we've looked at,
Yeah.
is there one that we would say this could be okay?
Yeah.
I guess that depends a lot on how much impact you want to have to your site. Because are there ways to make some of these options work? Sure, but they have impacts to your athletic fields, to parking on the site. They involve a complete redesign. I think the options that we think have the most merit are the ones that separate bus and parent traffic completely. So we have we've provided some different options for how to route the buses that still utilize the bus loop at the north side of the building. So they're still coming through Noyes Street, but there are alternatives to having them all come out Noyes Street at the South Street intersection, and I think those would be the next preferred. And what is now, I would say, the proposed option is to allow some of those buses to come out through Princeton Street instead of all of them coming out through Noyes Street.
Mr. Richard?
Yeah, with all due respect to some of these plans, I mean, we have one of the most inclusive middle school sports programs. For example, we have 7 soccer teams in the fall, this past fall, so I just have to say I'd be really concerned about losing any athletic space for our students, because a fundamental thing with middle school, we want to expose kids to as many things as possible and keep them after school until 5:30 with late buses, and the loss of an athletic field or fields would just be concerning to me.
And can you talk about the current system in terms of the barriers and like Nicole, I do occasionally drop
Yeah.
off at Runlet, so I've
Yep.
lived it.
I see it out front every single morning. There's only certain staff. I only have one that really is kind of willing to do that crosswalk duty, because I have numerous staff who it's too much of a stressful environment for them to supervise and observe, quite frankly. So that's the current situation, and it's a very challenging space. I talked to Jason Wimpy, who was a former Concord police officer and SRO at Concord High. He actually works for transportation now, and he actually gave me a laundry list of things, like concerns that he has just in terms of safety, in terms of the current circumstance. So there's a lot. I could go on and on. I understand, this building was built in 1957 with the current traffic layout, and when they did that, a lot of things have changed, since then. And fundamentally, to me as principal, it's, I like the design of separating, bus traffic from, it's not just people dropping off, at school in cars. It's my walkers, right? Kids who walk to school. It's kids who ride bikes to school or take their scooters to school. So fundamentally, having those things separated is, I think, safest. And then also when we think about, deliveries, like one of the things about the current plan, we separate the buses, we separate the walkers, riders, kids, scooters, all those things, and the delivery is also separated from those locations. So it's, again, it's a lot, and the people I talk to, firsthand, I think separating those three things is fundamentally important to create the safest possible situation for our students and staff and community.
Mr. Richards?
Yeah, so I just want to chime in because I was a part of the original visioning process. I was on the board at that time. And one of the overwhelming things that the parents and community members stated at that time was to change the entranceway, to separate those two. Because, as a parent, I dropped off there on occasion. My children took the bus most of the time. But the majority of the kids come in the bus. Having them cross any sort of lanes is definitely dangerous. Safe Routes to School said this was probably our most dangerous entrance to school. And I do believe there was, if we go back before Mr. Richard's time, there was a child that was hit as a result of this. So I think overwhelmingly, the community was voting for child safety and wanted that separation, which the current plan provides and provides in the best manner possible.
Mr. Cashman?
I just wanted to add, I came to just give a brief overview, and I think, Pam, you covered it, but just to reemphasize, since November, we've had 8 meetings with the city, the building committee that is around you. They've all been published. And I think probably, Pam, to echo your point, we have 3 separate professional engineers that weighed on this, and safety is the number one priority that we are trying to do. All these evaluations and all these options were brought forward and tested with these engineers. At the end of the day, the city, engineering crew, the TPAC, and our building committee, with the help of the independent engineer, all recommend what has been proposed as the safest possible solution. So I don't ever want to lose sight of that, and I think it's important that you brought it up, but I absolutely want to reemphasize this. It was requested of me to schedule another meeting after the abutters meeting with the Traffic Operations Committee. The city was very accommodating. They did do that, but their initial reaction was, we've already looked at this. I said, well, we heard some feedback from the community. We wanted to bring it forward again. We did, and I'm glad we did because we continued to get that feedback. So I felt it was important to add that to the conversation.
Does anyone else have questions? Ms. Monell?
So I think what we're hearing from the neighborhood is that by making our campus safer, we're making their neighborhood streets unsafe. My priority, right, is to make the campus as safe as possible, and I don't want to lose any athletic fields. Are we creating in your professional opinion, are we creating an unsafe situation by having school buses drive on Noyes and Cypress Street? I'm not asking you, I'm asking.
Thank you, but if we could hear from Rebecca and...
Yeah, so no, I do not believe that you are creating an unsafe situation by having the buses utilize Noyes Street and Cypress Street. We've run turning analysis to make sure that the buses have adequate space to do that within the existing roadways. They are all low volume roadways with excellent sight lines along them so that in the morning time, when you have buses arriving and leaving at staggered times and they need to pass each other, there is adequate sight line for them to be able to see each other. I know that there is a concern about on-street parking and people walking, but there is more than adequate sight line out there to see those vehicles that are parked on the street. A bus is certainly able to, if there's a car parked on your side, you stop, you let the bus go the other way, and then you go out around them. It's not a situation where you have heavy traffic flow in each direction where you wouldn't have that opportunity, or where a car might come up behind you at a high rate of speed and rear end you. That is not the type of situation that we're talking about in this neighborhood. There's certainly adequate space to be able to do that. We have modified the plans a little bit in terms of which direction the buses will go out, which I think will alleviate some of the concerns that were previously expressed about buses needing to take that left-hand turn out onto South Street across multiple lanes of traffic. Now all buses will be taking a right turn out where they'll have adequate sight lines. They won't have to cross multiple lanes of traffic to do that, and will be a much safer situation.
To follow up on that, Mr. Cashman or Ms. Fox, from your role on TPAC, did the city planning department, traffic operations committee, TPAC, have concerns about that we were,
So,
Ms. Minot's question?
yeah, so this particular issue was not necessarily referred to TPAC,
Yep.
which is the Transportation Policy Advisory Committee that I sit on.
Okay.
It was sent to Traffic Operations Committee, which is a different committee that I talked about earlier. We, TPAC, did have a conversation based on a resident request on Cypress Street to look at some of this area. And our assessment was that it was safe, that there is, I think that is kind of where there was a suggestion made about having some of the buses not trying to alleviate some of the issues that were brought up about the left-hand turns out. And that was a suggestion that came up out of that conversation at TPAC. But otherwise, there was one member who advocated for consideration of sidewalk in that neighborhood in the future, but that's still a future conversation. The city maintains sort of a list of sidewalk priorities, and obviously, if the school configuration changes, the priority list would likely shift as well. But it was not felt to be unsafe.
Ms. Vaughn?
I don't want to say too much, and I don't want to say I told you so, but I'm going to go there a little bit. I think this is the opportunity to trust the professionals. We had an opportunity, we were told for years that this site had a lot of challenges when it came to rebuilding on it, that it was too small of a parcel, that there were traffic concerns, getting buses in and out. These were all known issues. The community challenged that, and the board listened to those challenges because the community said we wanted the school rebuilt at this site. The board has been very accommodating and respected that. They're now looking at building the best school on what's a very challenging site in the best way they can. They want to make sure that it is safe for students, first and foremost, for the community as well. But that means it can't be exactly what it was before. It has to be different because we all know the current situation is not a good situation. This is a challenging site. This was known, but I think the time is now to continue to trust the professionals. We've been down this road. It's been delayed because of the fact that, frankly, we didn't trust the professionals the first time, and we're in this position because of it.
And I will note, Ms. Brown works for a competing engineering firm to me. I have no incentive to say she's done a good job. So when I say that I think this is a solid traffic study that has assessed all the different options, that is genuinely my opinion.
So the current situation is the current plan is what the board has approved for the current design. So to change it does anyone want to make a motion to make a change? Otherwise, we can move on. Because if anyone would like to make a motion to do something different or look at something different, thank you.
Hope you enjoyed your tenure on the school board.
Thank you for coming. I understand, and I would wish, and this is not all school board members, these are community members as well. I'm going to echo what Ms. Vaughn said, which is that I have gone back and forth and bugged Rebecca and Matt a lot, and I appreciate their patience because, I live in a world where I can want to live in a world where I can make everybody happy and find the solution. And I think other board members have done very similar things. There have been a lot of drawings and sketches going forward. I am not a traffic engineer. I am a journalism major. I have a business administration's degree, but I don't know how, my geometry isn't that great, and I don't design roads or traffic things. And if I have a group of professionals telling me that this is the best option, including the city's professionals, who also don't necessarily have a dog in this fight, saying this is the way you should do it, and we don't see another way to do it, then I'm not comfortable designing my own traffic pattern. But so, seeing no motion, Ms. Fox, thank you for coming. Good luck at the concert tonight. And with that, I think we're going to move on to the value engineering, where we have some good news.
Yes. After all that.
After all that, we actually have some good news this evening.
Absolutely. Okay, yes, yep. We can definitely do that.
We're going old school with paper. That's not going to help our people online if there are any.
No, can we go online so that people can see it?
It's online. It's posted, right?
Yeah, it's already.
Nobody sent it to me.
Check your email, please.
What, 5 minutes ago?
About 5 minutes before the meeting.
5 minutes.
Is it possible to put it on the screen?
Yeah.
You need the dongle?
I need the down.
Yep.
That's okay. It's all good. We'll keep notes.
So, we're joined by Keith Kelly from Harvey Construction and Holly Miller from HMFH. Ms. Brown, you are welcome to go home if you would like. Thank you very much.
In a minute or two.
You're welcome to stay.
That's right. You can certainly hang out.
As folks might remember, we sent Harvey out to do some early bid packages and to get us some results and hopefully some savings. And they have some reports on that, as well as some additional suggestions for cost savings that we should consider tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Keith.
Jack first.
Jack first.
Jack's going to tee it up.
I'm
That's
just
right,
teeing
I'm
up
sorry.
line one.
Line
So,
one.
Just to take us back almost 9 months ago, on September 10th, this committee sat and did value engineering and developed the base construction cost that was approved in the budget on October 23rd, 2025. When it approved the total project cost, within that number was the $141,301,360 for construction cost. At that time, we were in design development, which is a phase of the architectural process. We are now in construction documents at 60%. So that next line is now teed off to Mr. Kelly. And as of 5/8, that 141 is now Keith's.
136, 867, 231. Happy to report that we are currently tracking about $4.4 million under that budgeted number back in September, October timeframe. Most of that 4.4 million is made up of the early bid package. If we remember back or go back through the videos, if you want to go relive it, we targeted an early bid package, which represented site work, ground improvements, geothermal, steel, and concrete. Those are all what would be considered early bid packages, which means we are getting competitively bid those items earlier than the rest of the project, which is why we're at 60% CD phase. We had targeted a $2.1 million category of early bid package savings, and we are at $2.5 million in savings to date. And there are still 3 bid packages yet to be awarded, so there is still opportunity for those to come in under budget as well. Those are literally in the next couple days. So there's opportunity for that early bid package to represent more than just the 2.5 that's up there on the board, which puts us to a 134, 330, 615 number as of today, is where the current estimated construction cost is for the project. Again, this is a hard construction cost. If you remember our conversations about hard and soft costs, hard costs is the things that build the building, and the soft costs are the things that are in the building, turn the building upside down, and that's the stuff that falls out, or the engineering and the design fees are a part of those soft costs. So those are not taken into consideration in this number. I will remind this group, as others online who were watching and may have reviewed those meetings, we talked about at the DD phase, taking a savings of almost $1 million for an asphalt roof. We are happy to report out that we are still staying with a metal and standing seam roof, and most of what's driving that is the attachment of the solar arrays on the roof is much better in a metal and standing seam roof than an asphalt. You can imagine what it takes to fasten solar panels to asphalt roofs. You have to put fasteners through that asphalt roof. And when it's a standing seam metal roof, they are clipped to it, so there's no penetrations and risk of exposure for water infiltration. So it is a better roofing system. It actually lasts longer than asphalt as well. So happy to say that we are tracking the $4.5 million in the budget right now and still maintaining a standing seam metal roof. So aesthetically and performance-wise, it's a better solution. What we have in front of you here tonight to get some insight on as we went through in September and October is value engineering or value management strategies, so that HMFH in their 17 days left before they have to issue documents, we can give them some direction to be able to, 16, sorry, excuse me. I was giving you an extra day. So that we can have them finish the documents and reflect these potential savings avenues. The zeros represent numbers we haven't got yet. These are fresh off the print as of today. We're still working with our trade partners to get some values for those. And the reason they're still up here is that we want to just get a sense of, are they worthy of investigating from this group? And we'll continue to investigate those with the design partners. This represents about another additional 1.8 million in savings. That's highlighted here without the zeros, obviously. And I'll also say that we're still not at bid time. So we're not in a GMP. That GMP is not expected until this fall, September, October timeframe, August, September timeframe. At which point we'll hopefully be coming to you and saying the same thing, that we're tracking under budget even from this number, because we'll have the competitive market. I can also say that we've brought 5 projects as of the first part of this year to GMP, guaranteed maximum price, and they've all been under budget. So we are in a great market to get good competitive pricing. People are interested in the project. It's a great project, and we're getting great response as a result of it. So my personal goal here is to get some feedback on this from this group to say, yes, these are all worthy of taking some savings to be able to find some more money. And that effort doesn't really ever change as we continue to buy it out. If we get recommendations from our trade partners during bid time to, hey, did you consider this? We will still present that to the design team for incorporation into the documents to potentially save some more money.
So for those who were here for when we did this before, the goal is yes or no in the middle column, and Jack will track our progress.
Just to clarify the yes or no, it's yes, you want to investigate the value engineering, not yes, I don't. Yes, I want to keep it. It always gets confusing when we talk about yes or no. Yes, I want. Yes, I want to get rid of that. Yeah. How does that work? Yeah. Yes, I want to save money. Okay, great. Let's go.
Okay. The ones that are zero, I expect that you will come back to us before we make definitive
we certainly can.
decisions on those. But and the administration has some recommendations, I think, on some of these that they think maybe we should keep, maybe we should go. So please chime in with that. And does anyone have any questions about the process before we start going down the list? Mr. Richards.
Can I just ask, and maybe it's too difficult, but as you were discussing it, Mr. Kelly, can you tell us things that cannot be reversed? For instance, if we don't hydroseed, or if we hydroseed instead of sod, and the lawn looks pretty lousy, we can always fix that. But if we don't put color into concrete and it just is a gray natural concrete, that's something we're not going to really be able to fix.
Absolutely.
Likewise, if we change windows, that's not going to be able to be fixed. But
Yep.
if we omit tables and chairs, that is something that could come back. And any insight you could provide
Sure.
with that would help me, at least, in evaluating these decisions. Thank you.
Yep. You want me to run through 'em?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jen?
So reduced, some of these are a little loose in their description. It's really just to maintain a semblance of order here in the length of these descriptions. But basically, we're looking at, there's three different brick patterns on the building that articulate the exterior. Some of those articulations cost money because it's a special shaped brick, for instance, and you actually have to put that through a manufacturing process that takes it out of a normal standard operating procedure, puts it into a custom solution. We all know what custom means. It adds cost. So if there's an opportunity for us to investigate that brick patterning with HMFH, we would encourage that investigation. Reason we can't give you a number is we don't know what that reduction or change would look like, and it will change the aesthetic that HMFH would obviously want to support. But if we can save money in changing a brick from this shape to that shape or putting it in the wall a little bit differently, I think it's a worthwhile venture. And somewhat to Mr. Richards' comment, you kind of can't go back on that one because we're going to design the building with the pattern and we're going to go to bid and we're going to build it that way.
But you'll come back with what the new pattern, what it would look like. I mean, we've seen
These types of changes,
designs, but
yes.
I think we'd want to see what it looks like.
If you can
before we
touch it and
sign
feel
off.
it and see it, we would love for you to chime in on that.
Yep.
There are other things like if we said, let's change the type of material inside the wall, I don't know that we would want to bring
No,
that
no,
back here. But
what
this
the
one would
outside
be-
of the building
Yes.
looks like.
Very different.
Yeah.
Yep.
But certainly knowing what that costs and what the options are.
Yeah.
Everybody
A worthwhile
agreed?
venture.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yes. Next.
The next one is a little techie and geeky, but the bottom line is that because we're doing a geothermal system with radiant floor heating, the current design requires us to place one slab, and then there's what's called a topping slab to put the tubes in. What this does is it allows us to associate those costs specifically to the geothermal and the energy improvements, which then gets us some credits. So it's easier to separate out those costs by doing it as separate slab placements. However, it complicates the slab placement on our part. It's a bit of a means and methods thing, again, engineering and geeking a little bit on this, but the bottom line is visually an impact on this group and the building is there's not going to be any change of impact or visual to that. It's how we track those monies relative to the credit. That's why this one is a zero as well, because we don't know how we can offset that cost yet until we go through the
But
whole
it could potentially
exercise.
get us additional federal tax credits?
It would not. We would have a harder time to get tax credits. So it's actually going the other way. So we're recommending something that would be harder to get you more money.
Okay, so no.
If it is a
Well-
net savings, regardless,
Yeah.
if we're saving
Right.
more than the value of the tax credit.
Yes, that's where
I
I-
think we should still do it.
Okay, great. Perfect. That's where I was going to go with it is because we don't know what that is, we have to work with HMFH to understand
Yes, we
what
can look at
that
the
costs
numbers.
are. We may find it's still a savings regardless of how much money you're going to get back
Exactly.
from the
Would it make the
bids.
system less efficient?
Not necessarily. We're still going to work with the engineers on that. It's about where that tube goes in that slab, and we can just, that's quality assurance, quality control for us.
Mr. Brewster?
Why are you doing two separate pours? I've poured many radiant slabs. You put the insulation down.
That's our point.
You snap the point. You snap the
That is our point.
tubing down, and then you pour the slab one time,
Yep.
and it's all done.
That's how we do all
So
our
it's a single
schools.
pour,
Yep.
not two.
That's exactly right.
That's what
So-
they're proposing.
That's what we're proposing.
There is one difference, so we do have exposed.
Mike.
Oh, sorry. We do have polished concrete floors throughout the main street of the building where we have the radiant slab, so that is.
Doesn't make any
there's a
difference
little
as far
bit.
as placement.
What's that?
That it shouldn't make any difference as far as placement. The polishing comes afterwards.
It's us protecting it.
It
They're
does. It
concerned
just
for
has
us
to do-
protecting it, and we've assured that we will make sure that that slab
If
is
it's a
protected.
4-inch or 6-inch or whatever, I haven't seen the plan, so I don't know, but if it's a 4 or 6-inch slab, it shouldn't make any difference at all as far as the finishing of it.
Yeah. It's us protecting it during construction. So,
Right.
yep. And we own that, right? So
You own
that's,
it. And you test it before you pour it.
yeah. And we're,
And after you pour.
we're the ones that are going to take on that risk for that potential savings is what we're getting at. So,
So
We
you
would
will
like to
get
have
us
you-
a number
Yeah.
on that and make sure that,
everyone's supporting of the decision,
and that it doesn't impact
performance, and
our
tax credits.
overall
Yes.
savings.
Overall savings. We did talk about this, number 3, the asphalt sidewalks versus concrete. We did talk about this at DD. It was, I believe, at that time marked as a yes with an add alternate. We would just want to bring it back up again as a potential savings. Initial numbers right now is about $100,000. Round numbers. To savings. Yeah. Yeah, and it's not throughout the whole project. There is a sketch somewhere. I don't know if
I
we
have a
want to
sketch.
graphically show that. You might need to change the dongle. Oh, unless you have it in your computer, in your inbox.
You sent me the presentation, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
That's why
I
I
can
was.
tell you what page it is.
The question, we have a question while
Can
you're.
you give me an idea of the difference in durability and maintenance need of asphalt versus concrete sidewalks?
So I'll let Matt talk about the maintenance of it, but I'll talk about all the roads we drive on are asphalt.
Right, but all the
All the-
sidewalks I walk on are concrete?
Yeah, exactly. So they both wear just as well.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot of them, sorry.
The biggest concern we have for concrete sidewalks, as everyone knows, is salt. So without using the appropriate salt, and I would argue that there actually is a salt out there that is appropriate, they will all tell you it doesn't ruin concrete, but concrete is very susceptible to that spalling, which is the pockiness. So that's where I would go with it, is that you have to be a little more caring to maintain it, whereas asphalt is bulletproof, so let's say, but certainly more performance-wise.
So I can tell you, no matter what the suppliers of salt and all that, and then this won't harm it as much as the other, it harms it. We have situations at our schools currently that I have to either patch, or because it is spalling where it just starts to bubble up and give way, it gets a little tricky. You've got rebar, you've got wire mesh in there. There's a lot of considerations. Looking at this and then looking at the cost, asphalt is a little bit easier to maintain. When you get that spalling, it makes it very difficult. It creates trip hazards, and we have tried calcium chloride, salt, mix of salt and sand. None of it's good. I will get to it, but we're probably going to talk about radiant coming in, snow melt coming in, and when we get to that discussion tonight on this, I'll speak very much in favor of that, and that might have concrete sidewalks in. That's an easier maintenance thing with durability.
Mr. Richards?
Yes, just asking the question. So you're saying asphalt is cheaper and it's way, way better. Why do highways use concrete and not asphalt? Why when they're making important things, they seem to use concrete? Asphalt, and the only question I have is asphalt is, don't we have potholes, and is frosties that affect asphalt more?
There's no
Will we do?
perfect substrate out there. I just think that there's pros and cons to both.
Okay.
Highways in the south are concrete. You'll go over them if you've ever driven in the south, like Florida, right?
Yeah.
We've been there. So the reason they do that is they don't treat their roads with salt and sand in the winter, right? So they can do that, and it's certainly a more durable. You get a pounds per square inch of compaction on a concrete surface is far better. But when you start introducing these admixtures of protecting from sand and salt and snow and ice, it has a negative reaction.
Should we talk about this in conjunction with the radiant heating?
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah.
that,
We can hit,
because I think that is number, I don't know what number it is.
Looks like
8.
number 8.
Number 8. So
Yes.
maybe we talk about these things together,
Yeah.
because that might.
That's fine. So 8 is back to that drawing, Jack, if you would. So the current design has radiant sidewalks, which do want to be in concrete. And the reason is that thermal mass that generates inside the concrete is better performing than asphalt. Asphalt's very open poured, if you will. So radiant tubing goes in concrete. Those areas would not need the treatment that other concrete sidewalks would need. So by having the radiant in the concrete sidewalks in these locations, loading dock and the front area, the maintenance associated with snow and ice becomes far less.
Mr. Cashman.
A lot of you might know, we put 91 feet, about 12 feet wide, 5 years ago, created a radiant slab for the high school, and that has been a dream come true. It is made out of concrete, but to Keith's point, we're not shoveling it, we're not salting it, we're not sanding it, and that's not degrading that ramp. So if we go radiant there, which I highly recommend, that's money well spent.
And then if we went radiant, would we leave number 3 as it is? Or are we talking about 2 different locations?
Right, we're talking 2 different locations.
Okay.
Before you do, Jack, there's the service area. We want to include Radiant there because we're going to be getting food deliveries, product deliveries, supplies, and we want to make that safe. So you can see the little purple on the left-hand side in the middle. That's where we're also
So I'm
including.
just trying to understand where you are. You're accept 3 and reject 8?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, you want 3. No, I don't want 8.
okay. If we're doing
As
radiant.
we're doing it
Yeah.
here.
Doesn't want to omit it, he wants to do it.
To include it.
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
Emit the reduction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Pam, can I ask a question?
Yep.
I mean, is it helpful to have the administration say which ones they would say no to? Because part of me feels like, wouldn't we want to know what the cost savings are associated with anything that has a 0 on it unless, people tell us this is a silly idea?
I think, are there, other than the radiant heat, are there any ones that you would suggest that we say no to or not find out the cost savings from? Matt, Tim, Jack?
I think the only ones that we talked about was the snow melt and and the nope, we would take the hydro seed cut instead of putting sod in because
Yeah, and we'll still go through it all.
I
but
just kind of wanted
yeah.
to.
No, I think,
other than that, take everything else.
yeah,
So-
we had a pre-meeting, not to show you behind the curtain, but we had a pre-meeting, right? And we obviously wouldn't bring things to the architect, let alone the owner that didn't have some agreement, right? So that there has been some preemptive strikes, but us as the construction manager, we have to throw it all out there because that's what you hired us to do. So we did. We actually had 50 items, I think, at one point, without offending too many people. But at the end of the day, these are the ones that we ended up focusing on.
So.
And like I said, we still continue this to a certain extent. This is the first pass. When we get to bid time and get to a GMP and we're still trending under budget and we still want to find money, we're still going to make suggestions that can get incorporated into what's called a conform set, which is issued after the bid documents.
So 3, yes?
At 3, yes. That's fine.
Asphalt sidewalks, yes.
Okay, 8.
I have a question.
You have a question?
So just to be clear, because I can see how someone would say a radiant snow melt sidewalk sounds totally outrageous, right? But what we're saying is it's going to save on labor for the clearing. It's going to save on the salt, which we just saw a huge increase in our salt budget and snow clearing budget. And the source of the heat for that is the geothermal system. So we're already invested in the geothermal system. We're not like racking up an electric bill to melt the snow on these sidewalks.
You're exactly
I
right.
just
Not
wanted
to
to make all of
mention-
that clear.
No, those are good points.
So, a few more, not to mention the labor that you're going to save, not shoveling,
Right.
salting, and sanding, and not, don't want it to go unnoticed that your liability, slips, trips, and falls
Right.
are a little bit less when it's already melted and pre-treated on our
Right, it's
cold
fail-safe,
winters that we
it's
have.
not dependent on
And
it being treated.
one last thing, not to kill this thing, but we also have 5-6 years of experience that we took out what we had and we put it into the high school. And it's been a dream come true for that main entry going to the gym.
Thank you.
So I think, I asked the question about asphalt and concrete before, but I'm thinking that all of those other asphalt areas, fine. I think that's going to serve us for the next 20 years, say at least, maybe even longer. But this is the most heavily trafficked area of the school from both the students and the parents and teachers. And I think in this case, since it's a limited, length, a limited volume of concrete, I think it's a good investment.
I think the other thing you add on too, that becomes basically a large walk-off mat. So now any of the salt that's in the surrounding, they walk off, and now you're not bringing as much salt in, which is going to increase the maintenance on the flooring and the wear and tear on the flooring, decrease the life. Plus, I think we have had problems with rusty door jambs, right?
Yeah,
because
quite a
of the
few.
salt. So hopefully that would limit out the impact on the doors as well. So you
Don't
have
wanna
the
bring that in
interior
there.
and those doors being, the useful life.
So is there a consensus that we reject 8? Okay, so we are recommending we reject 8. Let's go back up to 4A, B, and C.
4A, B, and C represent the components of the north courtyard, if you will, the courtyard off the cafeteria. Right?
I thought that was all, I thought number 4B is all of the kind of loose furniture. There's some. On
Loose
each side.
furniture in the courtyard for 111,000.
Yeah.
That's just the courtyard.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's how I have it.
okay.
You're talking about the southern courtyards too?
No, there's no furniture in
Right.
the southern courtyard. There are some benches, picnic tables along the east side of the site. I thought that was in that number.
We can confirm that.
So monumental seating, you want to discuss?
So
that is?
I think Holly can better describe what that really is, because that does have an impact on grading and,
Yeah, so in
Drainage.
the courtyard, it's sort of,
can you zoom into that, Jack, maybe?
Yeah, let me see if I can find that. I think there's an image in
There's a
here,
site
isn't there?
plan.
Yeah, right there.
Let me just.
No, go back. Right there. 7 and 8.
So if you zoom into 7 and 8, so 8 is the monumental seating feature, and it's sort of like this stepped wooden amphitheater, essentially. So it becomes an outdoor classroom. So it's really the only space that we have on the site right now that's designed as sort of an outdoor classroom space. So that is the monumental seating feature.
Something that always could go back later too.
This is something we could
that's-
add back
Doug, you
as
could
we
add.
go.
Pot of gold that you were looking
So the
for.
contractor in me
Go back
says
and put
yes,
in.
but the architect in me says no, because there's grading and slopes and subsurface preparation and things like that that make those monumental seats work, that it would have to be a different solution if we didn't put them in from the beginning.
It's still a solution.
Can I
There is
ask,
still a solution.
what would it be made of? Like, are we talking about, like, wooden platforms? Are we talking about wooden with grass? Like, what's kind of the vision of that?
So there's a paved area, there's a small area of grass, and then there is kind of a wooden platform. So there are 3 areas in the courtyard, so to accommodate different types of activities. So you could have kids sitting on the lawn. There's an area that's paved that you could have tables and chairs in. I think that's the 4B item. And you can see a little bit in this view that kind of monumental seating feature, which is the platform.
Okay. So, from a classroom teacher's perspective, and I may not be speaking for the majority, but I don't know. I know a lot of teachers wanted an outdoor learning space. That did come up. However, the maintenance for that, I feel like somebody's going to have to clear that. Somebody's going to have to take care of it. And I know right now that I don't think there's enough people now to do the maintenance for the grounds. And I also think one of the reasons why a lot of people want to take their kids outside is our classrooms are currently 85 degrees. They won't be, right?
They won't be.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And so I don't know. I know some teachers would probably still like to take their students outside, but I don't know if there will be as much need to. So my colleagues may not be thrilled with me for saying this, but I think it's something that could be eliminated when I look at the cost of that and the fact that kids can sit on grass as well as they can sit on platforms. So.
Matt, Mr. Richards.
I would just say, when we did the elementary schools, we did some very nice recycling of the granite that came out of the Kimball School, and we made those, at those 3 elementaries, we made those into amphitheaters. Didn't know it then, but definitely it does not get the use. I think from an educational standpoint, a principal standpoint, people at the schools, it's a different grade level, but that's a pretty pricey price tag, and if we're looking to get this in under, I think you got to consider that, because
Yeah, I mean, I look at the amount of time it would take to get the students there. I don't know that, again, kids can sit on grass if you really want to take them outside. So.
Would this be getting rid of the pavement, the concrete on the courtyard?
Well, we'd have to put something back where we take out the monumental seating, so we'd have to either put back in some paving or more grass. Or landscape, so
Mr. Richards?
something has to go back there.
Yes, I'm just going to say that going back once again to what community members and parents wanted when we went through this, they did want outdoor educational opportunities, the opportunities to spend more time in there. at this time, I don't know that it has to be very structured, so structured. I think that they will make use of it. And to Mr. Brewster's point, if we find that there's a huge need down the road, there are options I think we could do. So, I mean, we're trying to save money here wherever we can, and I would encourage that. Look into
Mulch
that.
is nice too, you don't have to mow it.
There are some accessibility issues with mulch, but there are options out there I think we can use.
So I'm hearing consensus on taking 4A, B, and C for now.
Can we get more info
I don't know
about
what
it?
Yeah, can we get what
I don't know what C
CR?
is.
Yeah.
I don't know that word.
That, again, it's right out of the spec, so it's the benches that are in that space. There are 6 of them, if I remember correctly. It's a bench. It's what was spec'd, and there's a value to it. And if we wanted to do that at a later date, that's one of those things that I would say you could put a bench. Park benches get put in parks after they've been built for hundreds of years all the time. So I think that to the point of what I'm hearing in this conversation, if there's an opportunity to do it later with something different, then let's do it. But if the grading changes, then that's obviously going to impact.
$26,000 worth of picnic tables.
Right?
I do think it would be good to see what the alternative vision for this space is, because we do want it to be, if this is the space off the cafeteria, it would be nice for it to be useful as well. And yeah. Okay.
Would that be an opportunity for like someone to donate a bunch and then donate?
Sure.
Sounds
Right?
perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
Love it.
Students.
I just heard a chairman step up.
Campbell Bench.
The bench committee.
Matt Ashton. Mr. Brewster, you want a bunch?
That's right. And then tables and chairs is just that. There are tables and chairs that are in the spec for us to provide as part of the project, whether that's done now or done later. Again, it's one of those things that one absolutely is, you can look at another solution later on and maybe a donation opportunity for $111,000.
Okay. Hydro seed.
Hydroseed in lieu
In lieu
of
of sod.
So obviously I'd like to think we all know what sod and hydroseed is, but hydroseed is just that. It's seeding that's been sprayed on. Oh, sorry, the misspelling up there now that I'm looking at it. It is basically, rather than having an instant lawn by rolling it out like a carpet, you have to wait for it to grow. Given the current growing season and schedule, we have anticipated this in our 2 years of field and sport field growth and lawn growth, so it's in the schedule right now. Is there an opportunity to save money and wait for it to grow? Yes. Is there an opportunity for potentially getting on the field a little earlier because it's sod? Yes, but I can't tell you what that time frame is. Is it a half a season? Is it a quarter of a season? One would argue that you still have to wait even for sod to get fully established.
We've been
to
told
wait
a
for it.
year for the
Right.
sod.
Yeah, it's the same for hydroseed. And neither of these are going to remove the irrigation. We had that conversation last fall. If any of those that remember and want to watch or did watch the movies or the meetings, irrigation is throughout the entire project. So that is in the project. So whether you do sod or do hydroseed, it will be watered, and we won't have dust bowls or mud puddles.
I would like to know like the impact on use, timeline for use of the fields, and like, does one hold up better than the other, even with the irrigation?
Grass is grass. Once it's established, it's established. It's really, it comes down to a first installation. We own it from a warranty standpoint. So if you've got splotchy hydroseed areas, we're going to come back and take care of it for that first year. But there are plenty of hydroseed lawns out there that look just like sod lawns after a number of years of establishment.
Ms. Minow and then Mr. Richards.
So I'm totally fine with 5, but for the athletic fields, if it means an additional season, an additional soccer season, for example.
I would want to confirm that with our athletic people to
so
understand that.
I
Yeah.
think for me, that's the deciding factor of what is that additional time for the hydroseed to set up versus sod to set up.
Yeah, it might be the spring of what year am I in for when we're turning that over? 2029 versus, is that right?
No.
2 years?
No, 30.
2020.
Because we haven't taken
it's
down
30.
the building by 29,
Yeah.
I don't think.
Sorry, 30. It might be the spring of 30 versus the fall of 30. I mean, that's probably what I'd say, because we're not going to get any of that lawn down until the fall of 29.
Yeah.
So regardless, it's going to be growing season of 29 to get
Right.
hydroseed, or growing season of 29 to get the sod down, and then you're not going to be on
use
it.
it that season either.
You're not going to use it that fall, right? That's what I'm getting at. So it's
Doesn't
really,
matter what-
whether
which
you
one.
get on it in March or April, as long as we don't get snow. Or you get on it in August when you come back in the spring. That's probably what,
Of 2030.
of 2030.
So it's affecting lacrosse and.
And I would, again, want to make sure that our athletic professionals chime in on,
That's, yeah.
just because it's sod and it looks green doesn't mean it's established and able to
Ready
be
to
played
go.
on, right? Because it still can move.
Can we sort
Yeah.
of consult with our landscape architect on this and
Get some insight on.
maybe I would say we hold this, I assume that we're not
We're
doing
not-
this for a while.
we're
This
not
is one of
buying-
those that we can continue to look at.
Yeah, let's look at that.
So I think we can approve 5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ones
that's
that are
what-
not athletic
yeah,
fields.
Yeah, 5,
I think
I'm okay with 5.
Can I ask a question?
Yep, sorry, Mr.
Does use of hydroseed versus sod involve a difference in the use of fertilizer and pesticides on that? Does one take
I'm not a
more
grass
than another?
expert. Yeah,
Well,
I'm
we should,
And for a longer period of time?
yeah.
we'll ask.
Just
We'll
ask
we'll
that
have to ask,
question
yeah.
because I'd just be curious as to, do we have to put down a lot more fertilizer and pesticides for
Fair.
hydroseed? Or do we have to put more for sod, or is it exactly the same? I don't know, I just would like that information.
Yeah, sure.
Ms. Oberg?
Also to consider, if we're talking about March, April versus the following fall, there's also the transportation costs, field rental costs, and
Yeah.
things to
Yeah.
consider too.
Yeah, as we know very well right now. So, people okay taking 5 pending the fertilizer question? And holding on 6?
Yeah, we'll get
Okay.
back to you on that.
So, yes and holds, but I think the fertilizer and the maintenance cost is for both of them,
Yep.
I think. 7, no bleachers in the multipurpose room.
I think we visited this at DD time, if I remember correctly. This is something that can indeed be taken later. It is the fold out in the multipurpose room. Jack, if you wanted to bring up that sheet. It's back if you right, yeah, one more. Up.
First floor plan.
Yeah.
Actually, they're.
Right.
Right here?
Unfortunately, they're shown retracted
Oh,
in this
okay.
view.
Yeah, right, right with the top purple
But I
basketball
think there are
court.
4, there's a small set of bleachers in the
No, top left.
multipurpose room. Yep, top
Oh.
left.
Yeah, purple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
purple.
Oh.
That's.
No,
nope.
purple.
Your other left.
Mother
Yeah,
pump.
there you go, other purple.
That is the multipurpose PE room. It has a small set of bleachers, I think 5 rows of bleachers that can be pulled out for things like wrestling tournaments that happen. Essentially, this room is replacing what is currently the NAR, right?
Right.
So we have bleachers in there. They're an alternate. We do need to just put in power for them at least. You could add them at a later date. We need to just have, the infrastructure in place. So,
Which this takes that into account, so it's strictly the bleacher cost.
yep.
So that's something, again, not today, but it either needs to go into the documents or not, and we need to either bid it out or not for the final construction documents and buy that scope. But for $44,000, that might be another avenue where we can get bleachers donated by some family that wants to wrestle. So, I mean, it's really, if we're talking about monies, I mean, is that a need or a want, or, that's where you start having these conversations.
This is not the main gym.
This is not the main
This is
gym.
not-
I think the only thing, if you keep it in, it gives you more options, right? Because you
I
use it
wonder with our
for-
wrestling program again, when, I see these wrestling tournaments, they're very popular. We have visiting schools. I wonder if this is one of those things where if we eliminate this, we'll wish we had it, once we, down the road.
I don't think what they're saying is eliminate it, take it out now. I think people have to remember, whatever these cuts are, when the final price comes in, there may be add backs.
Yep.
All we're saying is that we want to commit to these bleachers at the moment, when, if you have the infrastructure there, I don't know what the specs are that make up that 44,000. In the end, there might be enough savings that the bleachers that you're looking at might be
Right.
either a better quality or a different setup. We just don't want to lose that part
Right, I thought I
of it if you
heard
want the savings.
the wiring and the electrical.
I think
part
it's
of it.
fully installed per plan that's written up,
Gotcha.
is what that 44 represents.
So does the 44 represent just the cost of the bleachers? Or
Yeah,
did-
that's the bleacher deduct, not the
So
not
the wiring
infrastructure.
and everything will
Yeah.
still be there?
That's the straight cost that you could plug and play if that was the solution at a later time.
Folks, yes, no? Yeses? Nos? Nobody?
No compelling.
I forgot which was which, but I remember this conversation in this room, and it was
part of the compromise of having the smaller general auditorium, so I'd like to keep the bleachers.
Yeah, so that's a no.
But I'm the only one.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
you're the first to voice an opinions besides Mr. Richard, so, in addition to Mr. Richard, so, Ms. Boucher.
I'm thinking if I were a parent watching an event or hours maybe at some of these wrestling tournaments or any other thing that's going on in there, I would want to sit on a bleacher. Otherwise, I've been to gyms for basketball that don't have any bleachers, and it's a pain in the neck to stand there.
In the wear and tear, if we mobilize folding chairs for those events to accommodate, because it's not in there, and the labor to get it out, labor to clean, take it back in, this, I think it makes sense
It
to
also
have
probably
them.
gives us some revenue opportunities for
Yeah.
renting it out with bleachers that we wouldn't have without bleachers.
Yeah.
Mr.
Keep it
Boucher.
Keep it in, that's what I was
I was gonna ask, the question that this begs are there times, or is it common for the main gym, which has lots of bleachers, to not be available to be used for an event that had parents and those in? Is there a time when that's not available and this is the room, this is where they're gonna use them, and this is where the bleachers would be needed? And I would defer to Mr. Richard.
Yeah, I
on
would
that.
just say definitely winter with wrestling season, which is the same as basketball, so there could definitely be conflicts at times.
Then in that case, I would agree.
No?
No.
I hear a no.
I hear a no. All right. We've talked about 8 already. Vision lights from classroom doors.
So if you look behind you, Miss Walsh, you'll see a window in the door. That is a vision light.
Oh, okay.
We are talking about removing those, and the reason we can remove those is that there is a floor-to-ceiling side light, well, floor-to-door side light next to each door. So the visual connection is still there. We're just removing it from being in the door and adjacent to the door.
So a little window like over there?
There'd be
Oh, but
no
all the way
window.
down?
Yeah.
Okay.
No window in the door, keeping the
Little
window
window on the
side
side.
light,
Yeah.
like.
It's actually bigger than twice the size of that.
So,
Yeah, it's quite a large light,
all right.
actually.
so you'll get us the cost
Yeah, but it's
savings for that?
worth us investigating.
Yes.
Why the side light and not just the window and the door?
I will defer to Holly.
Okay.
So, well, we've talked about having some visibility into the classroom, right? So you need either a window or a door, right? You don't want to have a classroom that you can't supervise. Jay needs to be able to look in and, be able to supervise a classroom from outside. So we need some visibility into the classroom. So we either usually put in vision panel or we put in a side light. So in this case, we had both. So what we've talked about is taking out the vision panel in the door, having a solid door, but keeping the side light. And the side light will have a roller shade on it. So if you are in an emergency situation, you would pull down that shade. The other thing is every classroom does have a protected zone that is outside of the, your vision from that side light. So there's a place that you can be in a classroom that is not visible from the side light. Does that make sense?
But
Pam, you might recall when we visited Nashua, they actually had that. They had that different color in the corners. It was
Yeah.
a while ago.
Yep, yeah, no, I was thinking about that. I think we were already
my
talking about that
question-
in public.
My question is, why take out the light in the door?
As
and
opposed
leave,
to the window.
Yeah, as opposed to the side light. Like, why not just have a door with a window?
So, well, you always have the opportunity to keep if you want to maintain visibility of like that team project area, teachers have mentioned sometimes they need to send a kid out of the classroom to take a test.
Yeah.
That they missed. But you still want to maintain like a visual connection.
Yeah.
You want to be able to supervise that student. Well, you might want to have your door shut for acoustical reasons.
Oh.
So the side light
gives you a better view.
Gives you the view, but it also gives you acoustical.
Right, but couldn't you just have a door with a window in it?
A half-light window.
Yeah, the half-light window. Like, can't, like this, but there's no side light.
You see it too much.
Like, right now, I have a door with a window, and there's no windows on the sides. So my question is, why keep the side light? Why not just have the door with the window?
The side light is going to give you better visibility
Okay.
of that team area.
Okay.
It's wider than the vision light in the door.
Okay.
The vision light in the door is 20 inches, the side light's 30, 40 inches.
Okay.
So it's twice as big.
In the window and the door seemed redundant.
Yeah, I was gonna say it
Yeah.
seemed overkill.
Yeah, but
You-
we already can, if I want to see, or you want to see outside, you have that side window.
Oh,
on the
I
door.
get why not both. I was just wondering why one and not the other.
Right.
So I get why not both.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Ms. Minot?
I also agree that I don't think we need both, but if I was gonna pick one, I would keep the window in the door and not the side window for a safety issue. You might as well not have locks on the doors in case of emergency if you have a window that someone can essentially walk through next to the door.
Oh, I imagine it'd be narrow.
Well, if it's like that, I could go through that window sideways if it goes all the way to the floor.
It is it can be tempered
Has
to help
be
that.
tempered
Yeah.
But if somebody has a gun, it
Within
doesn't
18 inches of the floor.
It's
tempered.
it's outside.
Maybe firelight glass
Right.
if it's a rated wall.
Mr. Richards?
Can I'd like to just know, how much are we saving here? Like, I think we're getting a pretty passionate discussion, and I'm curious as to how big
So-
a number that is. So maybe we just should look down the road as to how big a number.
We can do an A and a B even on this one.
Well, I
would say
think
a
to
door
see
light
the-
versus a side light.
I think
and
that would
let's
be good,
look
but
at
I
that.
would also, I would like us to sort of talk to the folks at Homeland Security that do school safety evaluations and see if they have a recommendation, just so that, you know, we can cover it. I'd also be interested in what the feedback from teachers are, if they have a preference. So, like, I would hold that, like, let's get the numbers for both, and, because
We
we
would-
don't need both, but
Right.
let's figure out
target a
which is the safest.
savings opportunity, and let's look
Yeah.
at which one checks the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think that the side lights are more expensive. So, but let's get
Okay.
those numbers and,
But we'll
and that
still
information.
entertain that direction. So we'll keep it as a Y, and then we'll obviously talk about
Yep.
which Y we're saying yes
Yep.
to. 10 is the change that simply is a functional change. So instead of the window actually tilting in or turning in, it would just swing in. So it's really removing a function of a window that makes it a great window, but do you really need to have both functionalities between tilt and turn? So there's a savings there, a great opportunity to just turn it into an in-swing casement window, single function. I'd argue it's probably going to last longer just because you're dealing with one function rather than two, but everyone has warranties and that kind of thing, so.
I do have a question. This might go to the security piece too. Right now, as the plan is, I'm going to be on the third floor, so that won't make much of a difference for me. But for people on the first floor, for safety reasons, windows that open one way versus another, does that make a difference safety-wise? For people being able to get in
I'm
or
gonna be
out?
talking to Homeland Security
Okay.
about the other thing anyway, so I'll add that to there to see if there's.
I'm
I
thinking
mean, we
more about
also
people
often
getting
put a-
out those windows.
We
Yeah.
often put a limiter on windows too, so they can only open a certain amount.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
But no, I would like them to be able to get out.
They're talking the ability to get out.
Would like them to be able to get out the
Oh,
window.
you would like
if-
to be
Well, I
able
was
to get
thinking
out.
getting in, like.
Yeah, that's right, the other way.
We've had kids push in air conditioners.
Well, I
you know.
agree, we don't want kids jumping out the windows, but,
No,
or
I mean
coming
getting
in,
We've
but-
had people break
Push them.
in.
No, we certainly
Yeah.
don't want that.
But getting.
In case of emergency,
yes.
being able to go out a first floor window might be helpful.
Yeah.
so we're gonna add that to our list
Yeah.
for the school safety
Yes.
folks.
Also, if a window is swinging in from a child running into it or hitting a corner of it, is there an advantage to the, I can't picture the swing in versus the tilt, whatever, but is there a consideration that somebody's gonna walk down along the table and,
Well, to Holly's point, they're limiters, so they're probably limited to 4 inches,
so
so
it'd be only like this?
doesn't open very much
Thank you.
anyway.
Okay.
The answer is yes, by the way.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, when students are looking down, they
Yeah.
have walked into the air
The air
conditioners. that stick out.
conditioners,
Yeah.
for sure.
This operates as a hopper window as well as a casement?
That's what's specified, essentially, yes. Yeah.
So do we wanna hold this one for a little more information, or are we okay with savings from only having one direction, but we wanna talk about which direction?
I'm good with one direction.
Okay.
I like that.
Yep.
That's a good
Okay.
solution.
All right, yes, with info. 11,
Remove vegetated roofs.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
very passionate about this, get rid of them.
all right.
Go look at the one at the law school.
Yeah.
It's like a few ugly weeds growing up on the roof. I'm
All
sorry.
right,
All right,
moving on.
moving
I like
on.
that. Excellent, thank you.
Features and plans
12?
12 is putting in resilient, don't mind the first two words, resilient flooring in lieu of porcelain tile in the kitchen. And that is supported by the architect, so obviously.
Yeah, we do have that now, just so you know, in the 3 elementaries that we commissioned in 2012. And those floors have really stood the test of time. They're easy to clean. They're non-skid. Comparing to the high school where we have the porcelain tile, I would say that this resilient flooring that you're talking about is, from a maintenance and a durability standpoint, I've been very happy with it.
Everybody okay with that? Did you have a question? Yep.
I just didn't think it would hold up as well. If we have it and it works, then if it's not broken, don't fix it.
13
Yes.
wood and wall panels, acoustic panels, changing them from white oak to a laminate.
Yep. So this is in the cafeteria. We have some acoustical panels to quiet that space. We don't want a really noisy cafeteria. So these are acoustical panels. They're like micro perforated and they have insulation behind them. So they can either be white oak, which is what the basis of design is. So a little bit of wood in the cafeteria warms it up, or it can be just a laminate. And that laminate actually could look like wood, or it could be a solid color.
And it doesn't change the acoustical impact?
It does
of-
not change the acoustical performance, no.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
We might need.
I mean, we want to see it to make sure it doesn't look ugly, okay?
At some point, I'm sure you're going to be seeing pictures of,
I mean, we should
material
look to
selections and
see what it
stuff.
looks
but-
We're
yeah.
working on finished boards, so that'll be
Yeah.
a future SBC meeting. So we'll have probably one meeting on exterior and then another on interior. So lots of samples to share with you.
Okay.
Delete.
And is that a reversible decision or a non-reversible decision for Mr.
That one could
Richards?
still be changed.
Yeah.
Because the details don't change,
Right.
it's just the specification change.
We could probably go right up to submittal time if we
Yeah.
really had to.
Yeah,
So
that's
yes.
an easy one to reverse.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. Delete walkway canopies.
We'll need it if we have all that radiant flooring.
That's right, Rick.
It's a big ticket. now.
So it's basically the extensions from the entrance canopy, left and right on this image. It's covering the walkways that we just talked about making radiant. So from a snow and ice standpoint, it's actually kind of counterintuitive. Obviously, on a rainy day, someone's got to deal with that, but,
And shade.
and shade. But for $250,000, I would
And they're gonna have to
suggest,
have an umbrella or a raincoat anyways to get to that point.
Yeah.
So
So one of the things that we talked about that we could do, I mean, originally these came into the design because the entrance is very far away from the parent drop-off and from the bus drop-off. So we were thinking about kids kind of, waiting for a parent to pick them up. It's pouring rain. What do you do? Because you can't see the parent drop off like from the front door. But one thing that we propose that we could add, if we take out the canopy, is we could add like a little bus stop shelter near the parent pickup. That way, a kid who's waiting for a parent to pick them up, so right there on that little pad, we could put a little shelter.
I think that's a good idea.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
The top of that roof looks like that would have been an ideal spot for, solar panels. Are we eliminating the opportunity for solar panels on the top of that? Because we have a lot of other places that we've been trying to find space for solar panels.
So I have not been involved in all of the PV conversations. Matt can probably address this, but
So we've gone back and forth with the architects and with Select, the company. I'm going to tell you, we probably had 6 meetings in the last 3 months, loading up as much PV on those roofs, every square inch. So even on top of the mechanical rooms, we're talking about a couple of more things. I wouldn't eliminate the need or the opportunity to try to look at that, but as of right now, we don't have anything loaded on those. But again, coming to the committee as a VE item, I think we're looking pretty good right now with everything we've got loaded on the roofs without the consideration of those.
Well, my question would be, would it be less expensive to put PV panels across that roof than it would be to put it in a different location on the canopy there? That would as opposed to being on the roofs or some of the others, is it less expensive to put it on there so that in the aggregate, it might be less expensive to include that with PV than it would be to eliminate it and have to put PV someplace else? I have no idea. I'm just asking a question because it seems like a good question to ask.
We
Yep.
can
Doubtful
revisit
you're gonna
that,
save a
but
quarter of a
Of
million
course,
dollars.
Yeah, you're not gonna save it.
Not at $250,000,000.
No.
With that price tag.
Yeah.
I think the thought was that the orientation was not ideal because they're facing east, they're shaded by the building. So I think the thought was, but I need,
Yeah.
we need to confirm this because as I mentioned, I haven't been in all those solar meetings, but I think that the thought was that that location's not ideal.
We can
Okay.
bring that back, but my discussions with Gary and Beth, they said it
So,
wasn't.
yeah.
part-
A yes, pending some recommendation from the solar company that,
Well, and just, why is that canopy $250,000? Is that a,
Well, it's two sides.
It's two sides, and it obviously
Cross drop off, too.
structure and components
Okay.
and roofing
Just asking the
and
question.
steel and finished
Gutters.
product. Yeah.
yeah.
And there's
Mr.
drainage
O'Rourke
and
then
gutters
Mr.
and
Manager.
There are a couple of
downspouts.
other views. There's a view without the canopy.
Oh, do
too.
I have another one?
And there's a straight-on elevation. So I think there are 4 different views of this. So if you want to share.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So
There's,
that's what the
Without it.
building looks like without the
So
canopy.
There, they are gone.
And then two
Another
more.
one. Oh, up the other way.
So I'm in support of getting rid of the canopy, but I do think having some sort of like bus shelter would be very important because right now we do have we have our canopy and that is where the kids wait when it's hot or when it's raining. And so to just, if you can't see the parent pickup from the building, especially, having at least some sort of small shelter for, 20 kids or whatever would be.
I mean, you get a decent crowd out there in the morning before the door is open too. So, I mean, so I'm okay with getting rid of the canopy. I would like to see what bus shelter doesn't appeal to me,
Right.
so I want to see what you come up. I get what you're going with, but like the design element of a bus, but like
It
if
can
you
be a
could,
beautiful little canopy.
yeah,
Don't worry.
yeah. And so if we could get like what's the price for the alternative too, that would be helpful. But everybody okay for now?
Let's
with
target
yes?
that one and then
Okay.
look at another alternative.
Yep.
Alternate gray brick, this is just as it sounds. It's if we go with a different manufacturer, a different color, a different blend, it doesn't drastically change the aesthetic. We've seen numbers between $5,000 and $20,000 worth of savings. So again, we're just targeting any
Yes.
place we can for simple changes that don't change the design significantly. And Holly's been working with vendors to find out what that might look like. So that would be part of the exterior finishes presentation that HMFH would do.
All right.
Reduced quantity of casework. Casework's a fancy word for cabinets and millwork inside classrooms and throughout the project. So it's really just about targeting areas that we have more than we need programmatically. And we agreed that a 5% target of getting there would save us $150,000.
So this
And
is
I
like
can
built-in
say that-
storage?
Well, you go ahead, Holly. Let me hear what you have to say.
We've already pretty much done this, so I think we've probably had a little more casework in than we need. We've talked about it with Jay. We've looked at it. We had a lot of bookcases in some classrooms that, you could always put a piece of furniture in that classroom at a later date if you need, additional storage. But I think we have a pretty good baseline level of casework in the building right now.
Like, how much storage are we talking about in a typical classroom?
Typical classroom has a 3-door kind of wardrobe. So 3 doors.
Okay.
I think I can pull up a plan.
Okay. There is never, ever enough storage in classrooms. I mean, I have none. Well, no, that's not true. I have a few small cabinets, but.
Let's see. Jack, if you want to pull up one of the plans, we can just show a typical classroom.
Talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, just
Any
zoom
floor,
in.
it doesn't matter. Zoom in to one of the classrooms, kind of down at the bottom here.
Not a science one, please.
Just a classroom.
Zoom in a little more.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a little bit hard to read here, but there are sort of 3 tall wardrobes.
Okay.
Not that whole wall.
No.
There are 3 sections. I think they're about between 30 inches and 36 inches. Kind of 7-foot tall wardrobe cabinets
Okay.
that are lockable in each classroom. And then there's a low counter that has some bookshelves below it. But there's also a displacement diffuser for that, which supplies the room with its, ventilation.
Okay.
Air. So I think there's a good amount of storage.
And those 3 cabins have shelves?
Yep.
Okay.
Linda, I know your classroom, so I think these renderings show you would get more storage than what you have now.
Okay, thank you. Well, I would hope that, but I just, thank
we
you.
did we went through a tour of it, and we were looking at what we currently had in some of our classrooms, and it far exceeded what was in our classrooms currently. At I would even venture to say at the high school level, there was floor-to-ceiling built-in bookcases with double-door cabinets, floor-to-ceiling with credenzas and other stuff. So there was substantial.
So a 5% reduction.
Okay. Still modest
Okay.
storage space in the classroom.
All right, so yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
A couple more yeses.
Um,
The gray brick
alternate
tube
wall
deck.
protection on stairs.
So we have right now in the design is a wainscot, if you will, 4 feet high of tile wall in the stairwells. This is just an investigation of what it could be as an alternate material, whether it be a sheet product, FRP is a name, fiberglass reinforced panels, something along those lines. Obviously, aesthetic is going to run a play in this. We would want to make sure that HMFH was on board with that, and of course the client, you guys. But at the end of the day, there are more cost-effective solutions than tile that give you a wear surface that will still perform. So it's just basically an opportunity to find some more money.
So I think seeing the alternatives is
Yep.
worthwhile. Obviously, you'll come back with the alternatives.
Yep.
We want something that will stand up to those delightful middle schoolers.
Right. And whether that's in every stair or some stairs, there's the stair 5, I think, is the one that we consider kind of the back stair.
Yep.
Maybe that one is looked at a little bit differently, things like that. I mean, we're talking a few $1,000s here and there, but a few $1,000s here and there is really, at the end of the day, they do add up when you're talking about a 200,000 square foot building. So we're going to keep looking at that.
Yep. Can all this material that might be on you're talking about the walls on the stairs?
Yes.
Could they be painted on? Should there be a mural?
Oh,
I'm just thinking
yeah,
like Oyster
sure,
River
right.
has these really cool designs up their staircase. I just didn't know if it could be added later, a mural or something on.
Probably not on the FRP.
No, not necessarily on FRP, but certainly some other products out there. I mean, you could do it with a plywood type sheet, MDF type product that's a substrate for just what you're talking about. So it's not pretty, but it's pretty once you put something on it, right?
Okay.
So that type of thing.
Okay.
So,
I mean-
yeah, I mean, there.
I know I've been in Oyster River, and I liked it because they use their tower, their colors to differentiate between the sort of like, this is the 6th graders, this is the 7th grade, so it would be maybe not all. So we'll look at options.
There are themes.
Themes, yeah, they're, so.
You might have remembered that, Jay.
I was involved in that a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay.
Alternate baffles in the team pods in the 3rd floor classrooms. This is again an acoustical treatment. Holly and team have already been talking to some of our vendors to see if there's an alternate material that is less expensive. I mean, that's what it comes down to, whether it's this thickness or that thickness, but still performs the same way, or it's this color or that material. So it's just really an opportunity for us to look at alternative ways to manage the acoustics.
Okay. Yes, we're all good? We're all good. Moving on.
Polished concrete in lieu of porcelain tile in the food tech. Obviously, that's kind of a no-brainer in my mind that you have a not installing a floor and it's in a food tech environment that
Matt's like, yes, please.
concrete floors are okay for that. So there's an opportunity there to save some money.
Just don't salt them.
Just don't salt them, exactly.
Let's build a salt shaker?
No salt.
The question I would have is a cleanliness situation. It is very difficult to keep concrete floors clean. They get dusty, I just want to ask a food tech professional or someone who knows more about that than I do before I just write that entirely off. Because I want it to be a functional floor for food. Food being,
Ask Sam's Club.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
whole
that
thing
that
is
not
concrete floors.
that doesn't necessarily make me feel better about food.
But the food prep area, yeah.
So we definitely will, but we
Just
all.
ask.
Yep.
Yep.
I'll ask that.
Also
you seal it,
standing
then
on
it's
the
fine.
concrete.
Yeah.
Mr. Cashman, standing on the concrete for long periods of time does a number on your.
It does, but we, like in restaurants or, at the back of the bar, there's rubber matting. Not that I've ever stood there, but I'm just saying that.
We use it quite frequently. It's
Yes.
a little bit expensive, but
What?
this is anti-fatigue mats.
Yeah.
At my day job, we'd use it quite frequently. It's not inexpensive, but it does work and I would, yes, if someone is going to be standing there, like say, and I don't know what food tech is that a classroom or is that where we're actually preparing the food for the students?
That is a student space.
Student
That's
space, yeah.
not the kitchen.
Okay, thank
It's a
you.
student space.
Okay, then they're not gonna be standing there for that long.
Don't stand there.
And they're not prepping food for everyone else to eat.
But we should still make sure we're meeting standards, right?
So is this a reduction or is this a no because you're revisiting it?
I think
I think it's a yes,
Yes.
learn more.
Yes,
Yes.
if it means food safety standards.
Right.
Okay.
20 is linoleum in lieu of porcelain tile in the locker rooms. Again, I think this is appropriate take, obviously why we're introducing it. And from a performance standpoint, I think Matt will support that type of finish instead of a porcelain tile.
Yes?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Reduce plantings in the south courtyard, that's the bottom of the school towards the parent drop-off, the two little inlets that are in the building that has some landscaping and such in there, those two little inlets. I think there's a landscape plan
Yep,
somewhere in there.
is. Yep. I think it's
Yeah.
it's right here.
So we're, was that, number 10?
10, yep.
So it's basically reducing that planting by 15%. And what that looks like, we're still in the process of determining, but
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
describe
go for it.
what we're thinking is that would just become, we have some trees in those courtyards, which, we want some interest when you're looking out the window. You don't want to be looking right across at another brick wall. But it would basically just be lawn and a few trees. So currently, we have some kind of low plantings, some shrubs and stuff kind of around the perimeter of those courtyards. But we'd be proposing getting rid of those.
Didn't we talk about that being our rain garden with?
It was a rain
Making sure that
garden.
the water gets sucked down in?
That's
That's
down
something
lower.
to avoid it? That's
It
all the
was a
way out
rain
in the
garden,
apron?
but-
So
yeah.
it's not in that area?
Right here?
Not anymore, no.
Not that close to the building, you wouldn't
Right.
want to.
Well, I would not want water to pool close to that building. I'd want it to be absorbed by plants and
The rain garden is this.
right in
Well,
there.
it should go, penetrate the ground and go down. not-
Should go down in that one. Okay,
it wanted,
okay.
Mr. Richards, it was at one time a little more elaborate than what it is today.
Okay.
Not because of the reduction, but just because of how the design iteration changed between last year and this year.
It's not a problem.
So I brought this up previously, but I just saw it still in the design, so maybe
Sorry.
it just hasn't been changed yet. But anywhere students are going to be standing waiting, there should be no grass because they will destroy it. So where the buses, where the students line up, cannot be grass. So it will be moot to try and keep it alive because they have to line up to get on the buses. I assume that's not changing. The idea of having them line up. So that whole grass area there's really no point in having it.
Except for it's a rain
So that is a very wide sidewalk, running along the bus drop-off.
Like how deep?
I think it's 8 to 10 feet, and then also the kind of the main street, that paving kind of widens up, widens as it heads towards the bus drop-off.
So right now we have, I don't know how many buses arrive to start first tier. Like
12.
Okay.
14.
And so the kids
I can tell you exactly.
ideally are supposed to get right on the bus, but they don't. But eventually we get them on the bus, but then we have another group that waits in line, and we're talking 25, 30 kids deep standing in line. And we have 1, 2, 3, at least 7 or 8 of those lines.
Those are perpendicular to the road, right?
Yes.
Coming
Wait,
across
like
the
this,
grass.
right? That's perpendicular. I
Yes.
teach English, not
Sorry.
So I know that the buses, there's going to be more space for the buses, but I don't anticipate that many more kids getting on the buses quickly, and there has to be a place for them to line up. And again, we're talking a full bus worth of students lining up.
So you
So-
asking them to look at the cost of paving that?
Well,
versus
I
grass?
don't know, but I just know that if you want to keep that as grass, it's not going to stay grass. You know, right now we have a courtyard area that is supposed to be grass, but the only time it's grass is during the summer.
Could we look at alternates for that instead of grass?
So I remember a conversation quite a while ago. This was, if you remember.
Yeah.
Where we were asked at a cost of $48,000 to take all that concrete out and try to make it grass because the kids play there in the morning. So this would be adding that concrete back, potentially back in. So I just don't know what's,
So I
guess
don't
where
know.
do the kids going to go or play until the bus?
I
don't
just know, well, no, when they're not playing, like when buses are arriving,
Yeah.
they're in line. There's no playing. You're waiting to get on your bus. And so, and when they arrive, they're going to walk right across that.
Sure,
They're not
I
going to
would
walk
agree.
on the sidewalk.
Yep.
They're going to walk right across that grass, and the grass is going to get destroyed. So if you want to keep it grass, you're going to need a fence or something around it, because otherwise they're going to walk across it. Or you don't keep it grass, because it's no way it's going to survive.
Mr. Catchman?
Just one thing to consider, this flow separates what you have right now. You have buses and cars arriving, so you have a higher volume in the one directed area. The other thing we can look at is this visually, and we can check the plans. This is longer. I think you're going to have more queuing than you have right now. So with longer, right?
But how are
Longer
we
lines.
going to have,
I,
so parallel, we would still have 7 or 8 lines.
but you have buses and kids coming. You have buses coming and parents coming.
But these
So
are
you're-
just kids
She's
getting on
just
buses.
talking about the buses.
These are
Yeah.
just kids getting on buses. Yeah, there are some kids who linger, you know, whose parents are coming, but we're not talking about that many kids. But I can tell you at 340, there are 4 lines of buses with about 20 to 30 kids in them.
Okay.
So.
I think you bring up a great point, Linda. I think let's work through this list, and she brought up a good point that we can investigate a little bit more and see
Yeah.
if there's some alternatives to that.
And I remember talking about it the last time, we were all pretty supportive of that.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, there's going to be a line. I mean, the pictures are not up there, but if the kids are just hanging out there on the grass waiting for the bus, it just.
I think the point is as nice as it looks in the picture, like the courtyard that we currently have probably looked really nice in the picture.
It looks great in the summer.
So to maybe look at that a little more. But I
It's
think.
not on the list, but we'll
I
add it.
know, I'm sorry.
We'll add it.
I saw it.
We'll add it. We'll add it to the list.
So I think an alternative that is to add to the list.
I think we'll talk to our landscape architect. Adding more impervious surface at this point is going to be challenging because when you add impervious surface, then you have to treat the runoff from that impervious surface. So
And ideas of fence, I thought that
Yeah.
might be a feasible solution. It's not going to reduce all of it, but some of it. But just look at alternatives.
We can do
Yep.
that.
So that's a possible add, I guess.
Sorry.
But we'll look at that. But 21 and 22, which are sort of landscape changes.
Yeah,
people hit on
22
that.
is just, again, into the weeds of what Miyawaki, those who are up on their tree plantings. It's basically just looking at a different species, and there's an opportunity to save some money.
We'll look at the cost savings from that. Evaluate playground features and surfacing.
So we talked about this at DD as well, and whether we'd reduce it or change it, or how many appliances that they have, and things like that. So it's really just again an opportunity for us to talk about what that design could be, and if we wanted to target some savings in that category.
I think we'd need to see what the options
Yep.
are.
I thought you had the picture in.
No, you didn't include that in
I
anything.
took it out.
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
could
All
pull it
right,
up,
so
but
this
it's-
is the
That's
area,
it.
right?
Yeah.
That's
Number
the
3.
area. And it's, just to kind of, we did look at this when we were on the Broken Ground site. We actually looked at the features. It's less of a playground and more of a kind of a parkour environment, naturescape. So it's, giving kids the opportunity to kind of move at recess and kind of get out some of the, get
I
out
will
some
tell you
of
the
the
number
extra
one
energy.
request I heard from kids.
What's that?
the number one request I heard from kids was
It
like
was,
a better
yep.
a play space. Like, you know, sixth graders are still pretty young.
But I mean, right,
Eighth graders are too.
Yeah,
right now there
it's
are,
true.
there are 5 features kind of in that rectangle. You know, we could look at reducing the number of features, you know, maybe it's 3 features.
That
So,
type of thing.
Let's look at the
At the options.
options.
We're not putting that in next week, so you're
Yeah.
good.
Remove color additive to polish concrete area.
Just like it sounds, this polished concrete that we talked about earlier has a color pigment added to it.
And
And
what
that-
color are they?
I don't know if you've made a selection yet.
We haven't selected a color yet. You know, that'll be part of the, you know, sample
Interiors,
boards and
yeah.
the color, you know, selection that we do
And
with
the
you.
regular color is what, like a grayish?
Like an aggregate.
Like a Sam's Club or a BJ's that Mr. Brewster brought up.
And
So
now-
it's concrete gray, or it's something other than concrete gray. There is some uniformity that you can acquire by having tint in it, but there's also some irregularity that you can acquire by having tint.
Came out terrible because of the color. Because it's blotchy.
Yeah. So there's a risk there, and I don't know the risk reward. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, I think we're all actually I think 110 Grill down in Stores.
Right.
I think that has exposed concrete that's dyed, colored, if I remember correctly. It's kind of a coppery
We'll have
color.
to make a field trip.
Yeah, so I think that is.
With the concrete au naturel.
Yeah, so I just think there's an opportunity there to let concrete be concrete.
Let the concrete be
Yeah.
concrete.
Right?
As far as I'm concerned.
It has its own characteristics.
Yeah.
You turn this into little industrial park. So I'd want to see it.
Gray's really popular right now.
Very trendy.
Millennial gray, it's called.
There you go.
So is that a yes, but you're gonna?
Well, it sounds like
Or
we're
is it
not
a
all
no?
on the same page.
I'm gonna say no, because I'd rather be more conservative in the reductions.
I just
And
want to see what
you
it
can have
looks
more.
like.
Jim wants a pink floor.
That wasn't the color. I was
Some
thinking.
school colors, maybe?
Yeah.
I tried beige in a passive solar house and it didn't work.
Thank you.
It was really blotchy and
We
not
have
uniform.
6 showers that are in restrooms. They are currently designed to be all tile enclosures. After conferring with various folks, they're not going to get a lot of use. Do we really need to make that type of investment? So we'd like to do some sort of composite resin,
Let's-
fiberglass.
Let's see the cost and savings and.
Yeah.
Even without, I mean, grout
Yeah.
I was gonna
is
say-
like,
Grout and
I
mold.
have an all tile shower and
So
it's
even if you
awful.
didn't save money, I think it's.
I think get rid of it for
From a
cleaning
maintenance standpoint.
purposes, maintenance purposes,
I think Matt
grout.
can
I
speak to
was-
that.
We involved a few head
Yeah.
custodians.
What's that?
We involved a few of our
Yeah.
head custodians, and that's the first thing. we
Yeah,
said.
I would,
Scrubbing, shower tile, grout.
yeah.
So, yes. And recess waste receptacles versus surface mounted versus none is this category that number 26 represents. So,
This is in the restrooms.
yep.
So
yep.
we're talking about like, as,
in the
like
wall.
something in the wall versus
Versus mounted to the wall versus a waste can in the.
trash cans on the floor. You don't need the ones in the wall.
And I think
They
Matt.
don't even make it to the garbage anyway. Like so.
I think part of Matt's conversation with his custodian team was a similar result.
All right. Well, so we'll say yes, and we'd
Yeah.
like to see the savings on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and that's easier to replace when it breaks.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So what's our total there?
1.361.
But with a lot of ones that
Yep.
are still to
With a lot
come.
of-
There-
Yep.
Yep. So at least 1.3 is what we've established tonight.
All right.
This will give HMFH some direction. There's some holes that we need to fill in a short period of time, and we will certainly bring that back for the ones that need to be filled.
Before we adjourn, Holly, is there anything that like the design team says, oh, I can't believe they're doing this?
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, there were, I mean, I think the kind of the courtyard needs something, it needs some kind of feature, and, you know, maybe we take away the monumental seating, but if it's gonna get used, it needs to have something in it, I think, so.
What's the
we're gonna have
lifespan of the monumental seating?
I don't know.
Well,
I mean, but
maybe
it's
you
not
could
like
come up
plastic.
with a lower cost alternative that we
We
can.
could,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we
I
could
think
look
that's-
at some options.
I think that's worth a charrette.
It
Yeah.
may not get into, you know, as I mentioned, we have 15 days left to finish construction.
Thought it was
Yes.
16.
It was 16.
Well,
Oh, is today over?
everything's over.
Some granite and concrete coming out of the old building.
Yeah.
Stack up some stuff over there and make a seating out of it.
Ms. Manel?
When I think of monumental seating, I think of Krista McAuliffe, because
Yeah.
I walk through that every day because
Yeah.
we cut the path. And it looks terrible. It looks like a mud hole, right? I think there was originally supposed to be grass in there. There's none. And I realize that the south
the
end site has a
Susan
very
Road
different drainage than where CMS is, but it hasn't held up well. And I don't think it gets used for the envisioned purpose very much.
I think some like backless benches or, you know, a slab of granite. Granite, I have no idea how much, granite, sorry. I have no idea how much that costs, but just some kind of surface like a bench would suffice. I don't think we need anything formal in regards to a classroom.
Tiered or.
Right.
Okay. All right, anything else for this evening? If not, we're adjourned.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.